Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a book that is just so profound, so necessary. The Book of Proverbs.
hmm
For any thoughtful Christian trying to navigate this loud and confusing world we're in, Proverbs really is this clear, steady voice.
It really is. It promises instruction. It promises a way to do what is right and just and fair.
Mm,
That's right there at the
it-
beginning.
exactly. That promise from the very first chapter is our whole starting point for this deep dive.
And it's amazing how quickly it gets right to the heart of the matter. It doesn't waste any time. It just lays down the one principle that if you miss it, you'll misunderstand everything else.
And that
Proverbs 1.7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge.
Mm.
Full stop.
Yes. And that's such a loaded statement, isn't it? We have to start there because without that awe, that deep reverent submission to God's reality, the rest of the book just becomes, I don't know, self-help tips.
Or just shrewd cultural advice. It loses its divine power. It's no longer about shaping a soul.
Exactly. And I think that really sets up our mission for this conversation. Our goal today isn't just to summarize some clever sayings.
Right.
We want to get at how this wisdom actively shapes the heart to love what God loves, how it trains our hands for, real everyday faithfulness.
I love that phrase, trains our hands, because this isn't about some abstract mystical knowledge.
Not at all. We're talking about truth that has to show up in the gates, the fields, the shops, the homes. Proverbs is meant to inform every single corner of your life.
It really refuses to let us compartmentalize. We have our spiritual life over here, our work life over there.
Mhm.
But Proverbs says no. How you handle your money, how you speak to your spouse, how you act at work, it's all a matter of fearing the Lord.
It is. And before we get into themes, it's so important to remember where this all comes from. I mean, the sources, this isn't just one person's ideas.
That's a great point. It's a composite collection.
It is. A lot of it comes from the wisdom God gave to Solomon, of course. But then you have parts that were copied down centuries later in King Hezekiah's day, and sayings from other figures like Agur and King Lemuel.
And that multi-generational aspect tells you something, doesn't it? It shows how timeless and universal this teaching is. God preserved it because the fundamental moral structure of his world doesn't change.
Which is why it all orbits around a few major recurring themes.
Right, and I think you've outlined 5 key ones we'll be exploring.
That's right. These are the anchors for our whole discussion. First, that fundamental choice, wisdom versus folly. Then the absolute necessity of the fear of the Lord. Third, the clear line between righteousness and wickedness. Fourth, the incredible power of our speech. And finally, the command for diligent work.
And every single saying in the book really connects back to one or more of those ideas.
It does. And one last thing before we jump into the history, we have to remember what the essay says about the path.
Yes, this is so important. It's not a set of tricks to avoid pain.
No, it's not a success formula. It's a path to walk with God right in the middle of ordinary, complicated life. It doesn't promise you'll never suffer.
It promises guidance and companionship through suffering.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference.
It is. Okay, so with that foundation, let's start where the wisdom itself started. Let's talk about the historical and cultural background.
Let's do it.
So to really get Proverbs, you have to picture ancient Israel. We're talking about life under the kings. And life was, it was tangible. It was concrete.
Not abstract.
Not at all. We're not in some university classroom debating philosophy. We're on farms, in markets, around family dinner tables, and crucially, at the city gates.
And the city gate was the center of everything, right?
Yeah.
It was like the courthouse and the stock exchange all in one.
Exactly. It was where business was done, where legal judgments were made. And that means spiritual ideals had immediate physical and economic consequences.
That's the key, isn't it?
And
It ties worship directly to your work, what the source calls public duties.
Yes. For them, things like justice, honesty, kindness, those weren't just private feelings you had in your heart. They were public obligations. They were built right into how you earned a living.
So your moral compass had to function in the marketplace.
Absolutely. The wisdom literature just refuses to separate Sunday from Monday. It doesn't use vague spiritual language. It gets right into commerce. Take Proverbs 11.1.
The Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate weights find favor with him.
I mean, that is a theological lightning rod hitting a literal business transaction.
Let's just pause on that for a second, because that has huge implications for us today, even though we don't use literal scales much.
Right.
In the ancient world, a dishonest merchant might have 2 sets of stone weights. A heavier set for when he was buying from a farmer, so he'd get more for his money.
And a lighter set for when he was selling.
Exactly, it's a subtle way to steal. And God says, I detest that.
It's not just a personal sin, it's a social injustice. You're harming your neighbor, probably someone who can't afford to be cheated.
So the modern application is just massive. We have to ask, are our modern scales accurate?
What does that even mean today?
Well, is it an accurate weight when a company hides fees in the fine print of a contract? Is it an accurate scale when you pad an expense report, even just a little?
Or underreport income on your taxes. Or when a professional doesn't disclose a conflict of interest that could harm their client.
Right. So integrity has to govern these tangible acts. It has to show up in our invoices, our timesheets, how we handle information. That's the practical wisdom here.
And what's so critical is that this wisdom wasn't some secret code for the elite.
No, it wasn't a riddle for the scribes.
Not at all. It was offered to everyone. Sons and daughters, servants and sellers, young and old. It basically democratized the path of righteousness. It made it accessible to every single person in the community.
And the way it's written, the form it takes, reflects that. It's designed to be memorable and accessible for everyone, no matter their level of education.
We see that first in the most intimate form, what the source calls the father's plea. This is a father speaking directly to his son. It's practical, it's nurturing, and he's urging him to remember these teachings because obedience brings real, concrete results.
Like peace and favor with God and other people.
Exactly. It frames wisdom not as this oppressive set of rules, but as vital life guidance from someone who loves you.
And then it moves from the home out into the public square.
It does, and it uses this grand, almost theatrical device, the personification of wisdom and folly.
So wisdom is presented as a woman.
A respected woman, yes.
Yeah.
And she's not whispering in a library. She's crying out in the streets, at the city gates, right where life is happening. She's offering knowledge and life openly to anyone who will listen.
It's like an open-air seminar.
It is. And then you have the contrast with folly.
Who is also personified as a woman.
Yes, but she's loud, she's alluring, and she's promising sweetness and ease, but it's all a facade. Her path leads straight to bitterness and death. The imagery is so intentional.
Wisdom is demanding, but offers security. Follies is easy, but offers ruin.
And those vivid images are called hooks for the heart. They're designed to press truth into your memory.
So it's like proactive memory training.
Exactly. The goal is that when you're in that moment of temptation, to lie, to be lazy, to cut a corner, that image of folly's dangerous door or the memory of the crooked scale just pops right into your head.
And this is where it all gets tied back to God. These daily choices, they're not in a vacuum. Proverbs constantly draws a line from these actions back to God as the ultimate ordering center.
Yes. This is the foundation of his sovereignty over everything. The book says God gives wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. He guards the path of the just.
So even the ability to make a wise choice is a gift from him. It's not just us being smart.
Right. It's rooted in his grace. And this is so important for fighting our own pride. We love to make our plans, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. 5-year plans, career charts, retirement goals.
We plan it all out. But then scripture comes in and gently reminds us who's actually in charge. The humans belong the plans of the heart, but from the Lord comes the proper answer of the tongue.
I love that verse. It tempers our ambition with his oversight.
It does. And so what you realize is that the fear of the Lord isn't just a starting point. It's the operational center of your whole life. It orders your wealth, your work, your words, your relationships.
And if that center is misplaced, if you fear failure or what other people think more than you fear God, the whole structure of your life just gets corrupted.
That's a perfect setup for looking at the moral architecture of the book, which we see in these unforgettable scenes, what the source calls the biblical narrative. So as we said, Proverbs doesn't really have a single plot. It's not a story in that sense. Instead, it uses these short, powerful literary pictures, these vivid scenes that are designed to stick with you.
Give you moral clarity in a specific moment.
Precisely. And the counsel often starts in that most private, intimate place. Let's look at scene A, the father's intimate counsel from Proverbs chapter 3.
This is probably one of the most famous passages in the whole Bible.
I think so. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. It's so simple to say, but so profoundly challenging to do.
That phrase, lean not on your own understanding, that's a direct warning against intellectual pride, isn't it?
It is. It's a call to submit our own logic, our own confidence in what we think we know, to God's higher perspective.
Because true clarity begins when we admit that his view is bigger than ours. And there's a promise attached to that submission.
There is a powerful one. If we submit all our ways to him today, If we acknowledge him in every decision, he will personally make our paths straight tomorrow.
So it's not a detailed map of the future.
No, it's a guarantee of divine guidance, a straightening of the road ahead, but it's conditional on our humility today.
And that intimate counsel is followed by these really practical warnings.
Right away, the father warns his son about envying violent people, about the allure of quick, dishonest money, and he warns about being misled by smooth talk that hides sin.
But on the positive side, he tells him to keep mercy and truth close, like a necklace.
I love that image. It's not an abstract idea. It's something you wear. It's part of your moral wardrobe. It's meant to be visible and define who you are every day.
So from that quiet, personal instruction, we then move out into the public square. And the stakes get much, much higher in Scene B wisdom crying out in the square.
Yeah, wisdom personified stands up in the busiest, most chaotic place imaginable, and she issues an invitation. She calls out to the inexperienced, the simple ones.
And she promises to pour out her thoughts on them. It's this act of incredible public grace. Knowledge is just available to anyone who will stop and listen.
And if you accept, the result is tangible. It's security. It's safety. Whoever listens to me will live in safety and be at ease without fear of harm.
And this is where it gets really serious.
Yep.
Her invitation doesn't last forever.
No.
Yeah.
She delivers a very harsh warning, one that makes a lot of modern readers uncomfortable. She says that if you reject her offer, you will eat the bitter fruit of your own way.
The choice is urgent because the outcomes are literally life and death. Rejecting wisdom isn't just missing out on a good thing, it's actively choosing a destructive path.
Which raises the question, why is it so valuable? Why the urgency? And wisdom answers that herself. She says she is more precious than rubies, and nothing you desire can compare with her.
That's such a radical statement. It places spiritual insight above every material thing you could possibly want.
And she's not just for private life. She's essential for a good society. She says that by her, kings reign and rulers decree what is just.
So a just society is impossible without wisdom. When leaders reject it, the whole community suffers.
Exactly. And now we turn to the dark mirror of wisdom. Scene C, folly's allure at the door.
This is the deceptive echo. Folly also calls out, but she's twisting our natural desires towards something secret, something forbidden.
Yeah.
Stolen water is sweet. Food eaten in secret is delicious.
She makes sin sound desirable precisely because it's illicit.
And the consequence is just terrifying. The text says that those who go into her house don't realize that the dead are there, that her guests are deep in the realm of the dead.
It just peels back the shiny, attractive surface of the temptation to show you the spiritual death and ruin underneath. The wise person understands the cost is far greater than the pleasure.
And around these big dramatic scenes, the book just fills in the gaps with hundreds of these little mini scenes, these short, punchy comparisons.
Right. The easily memorized ones. You have the ant rebuking the sluggard for being lazy. The ant knows to prepare for winter.
So the wise person prepares for their future, both on earth and for eternity.
Then you have the honest scales versus the false weights again, pulling us back to public integrity, and that classic on conflict management.
A gentle answer turns away wrath.
But a harsh word stirs up anger. So true in every part of life.
And the one about the tongue having the power of life and death, it reminds you that your words are never neutral. They either build up or they tear down.
So the takeaway from all these scenes is crystal clear. There are two paths. The wise walk a straight path under God's eye that gets brighter over time.
And the foolish grasp for immediate pleasure, or they follow their own pride and they find ruin. It's a moral compass for every single moment of your life.
It is. Which leads us to the deeper question of why. What's the theological significance behind all of this?
Why? Let's go back to that unifying center, because it really is the linchpin for everything, the fear of the Lord.
The beginning of knowledge and wisdom.
Exactly. And we really need to clarify what this fear means, because for a lot of people today, that word just means panic or trauma.
Right, but the source makes it clear it's not cringing terror.
No, that's paralyzing.
Oh.
This is different. It's a settled awe. It's this deep, reverent submission that just fully gets God's majesty, his authority, his perfect goodness.
So it's an awe that trusts his ways, even when you don't fully understand them. Yes. And that awe is an active thing. It's a motivator. The practical result is that it leads you to shun evil. You start to walk up brightly. You find life in the Lord's favor.
So the fear of the Lord is actually the engine that drives a moral life.
That's a great way to put it. You fear displeasing him more than you fear missing out on some temptation.
And this is why our conduct, our actions, are so deeply rooted in God's character.
Explain that a bit more.
Well, all the big themes, wisdom, righteousness, diligence, They flow directly from who God is. We pursue righteousness because God is righteous. We try to speak truthfully because every word from God is true. We work diligently because our Creator built order into the world.
That's right. The book anchors our small daily choices in the very nature of God. I love the example from the essay. The Lord detests the way of the wicked, but he loves those who pursue righteousness. That means when you choose to be honest when it would be easier to lie, or you work hard when no one's watching, God literally loves to see that in you. It's pleasing to him.
That brings us to a really crucial point that people often get tripped up on: God's moral order. We have to be clear that the blessings in Proverbs are general patterns, not ironclad bargains.
This is so essential. If Proverbs was just a strict mechanical contract, do good, get rich, then you wouldn't need the book of Job.
Or all the Psalms where the writer is lamenting because the wicked are prospering.
Exactly. Proverbs is describing how life generally works under God's righteous rule. Diligent hands tend to bring wealth. Lazy hands tend to bring poverty.
But it's not a 100% guarantee in every single case.
No. And when people treat it like a guarantee, they can drift into that prosperity gospel mindset that if you just follow the rules, God owes you health and wealth.
Right. But Proverbs shows us the pattern. Honesty tends to lead to trust and a good reputation in the long run, but it doesn't mean you won't face persecution or financial hardship in the short term. It requires faith that God's patterns hold true over time.
And that nuance leads directly to the need for discernment. If it were just a formula, you wouldn't need wisdom. You could just apply slogans.
But the book promises prudence and insight. It forces you to weigh the moment, to think critically about how and when to apply the truth.
The ultimate proof of this is that famous contradictory pair of proverbs.
So the one about the fool.
Yes. First it says, "Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will become like him."
Okay, that seems clear. Don't sink to his level.
But the very next verse says, "Answer a fool according to his folly, or he will be wise in his own eyes."
So which one is it?
It's both. The text is intentionally forcing you, the reader, to stop and think. You have to discern the situation.
So you have to figure out, when will engaging just drag me down into the mud? And when will staying silent allow a dangerous idea to go unchallenged?
Precisely. Sometimes answering a ridiculous email chain at work just damages your own credibility. That's the first proverb. But sometimes in a public setting, silence allows a destructive lie to spread. Then you have to answer.
So Proverbs isn't giving you a rule book. It's training your mind to think wisely.
It is, and the ultimate theological endpoint of all this is looking forward. This whole wisdom tradition in the Old Testament is pointing towards something.
Right.
Or someone.
It's fulfillment in Christ.
Yes. Jesus is the perfect embodiment of this wisdom. He grew in wisdom, and the New Testament flat out says that Christ is our wisdom from God.
And Colossians says that in him are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge.
So when we're seeking wisdom, we're ultimately seeking Christ. He is the perfect picture of the moral beauty that Proverbs is calling us toward.
So then how does this apply to us, the church, today? We're not ancient Israel.
True, there are covenant distinctions, but the essay affirms that this wisdom is timelessly relevant.
Because the moral principles reflect the unchanging character of God.
Exactly. As Tony and Timothy says, all Scripture is God-breathed and useful for equipping us for every good work, right here, right now. The call to live wisely, rooted in the fear of the Lord, is for every believer in every generation.
That's a perfect foundation for what's next. Let's get into the really specific, practical application of all this for our lives today.
Okay, let's start with those quiet inner choices, the battles that nobody else sees.
So the first point is that the real difference between a wise person and a foolish person isn't their IQ. It's their humility. It's all about how they respond to correction.
Yes. The wise person actually welcomes rebuke. They see it as a gift that helps them grow. The fool resists it, gets defensive, and hardens their heart.
The Proverbs on this are so blunt. Do not rebuke mockers, or they will hate you. Rebuke the wise, and they will love you.
A wise person cares more about getting it right than being right. They store up knowledge. A fool's mouth, on the other hand, is just an open door for ruin.
And that attitude, that teachability, immediately affects our relationships. Which brings us to the next practical point. Companionship matters a lot.
It really does.
Yeah.
We're told to intentionally seek out company with people who fear the Lord and to avoid partnerships that pull us towards sin. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm.
So it's not just about avoiding bad influences. It's about proactively choosing friends and mentors who will sharpen you.
Exactly. Your trajectory is influenced by the people you're closest to. If you want to be more diligent, spend time with diligent people. It's that simple and that profound.
A third inner choice is about managing our emotions, specifically anger. This is where wisdom can prevent so much relational damage.
The fool, it says, shows their annoyance at once. They just react. But the prudent person shows their strength by choosing to overlook an insult.
That takes real self-control. It means pausing instead of reacting, recognizing that a quick, angry response almost never makes things better.
And it often makes things a lot worse. The ability to just pause, to weigh your words before you speak, that's a hallmark of true wisdom.
And the essay sums this all up with a really powerful image. It says every ordinary decision, how you take criticism, who you eat lunch with, how you react in traffic, is an altar where we either honor God or feed pride.
That's sobering. Our daily habits are these quiet, constant acts of worship or idolatry.
Wow.
Okay, let's move from our inner world to the tool we use most often, careful speech.
Proverbs gives the tongue just this immense power. It's almost cosmic.
It is. It says, the tongue has the power of life and death. That's not an exaggeration. Our words are not neutral. They are either building life or causing destruction.
But when we use them wisely, they can be incredibly healing. Gracious words are compared to a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones.
That means wise speech is literally nourishing. It's restorative. It brings real comfort and encouragement to people.
And that kind of restorative language is the key to resolving conflict. We come back to that core principle. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger.
And that's true everywhere. At the kitchen table with your spouse or in a tense meeting at work, the principle of de-escalating with humility is universal.
A gentle answer isn't usually a spontaneous one, is it? It's prepared. It means you've decided ahead of time to seek peace rather than to win the argument.
That's right. It takes deep humility to respond gently when you feel attacked.
And then there's the issue of integrity in our speech. God detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy.
The wise person weighs their answers. They think about the impact of their words. And they keep their promises, even when it becomes costly or inconvenient to do so.
The practical implication of this for our homes and churches today is just huge. If we all committed to this level of truthfulness and kindness,
we would put out 1,000 needless fires.
Exactly. So much conflict is fueled by gossip, slander, and just careless words. Wise speech is a core spiritual discipline.
Okay, let's pivot to the economic world, work and wealth. Proverbs is just undeniable on this point. Diligence is necessary. Diligent hands bring stability, but haste, chasing get-rich-quick schemes and just empty talk, they lead to poverty.
So it's about wise planning, persistent effort, and follow-through.
It is, while always balancing that work with the need for rest and worship. It's not about becoming a workaholic.
And the consequences of laziness, of sloth, are painted in these really unforgettable pictures.
They are. You have the ant shaming the sluggard. The ant just knows it needs to prepare for winter. It doesn't have a boss telling it what to do. It just works.
And then there's that devastating picture of the sluggard's field, all overgrown with thorns because he just neglected it.
Right. And he's justifying it to himself, a little sleep, a little slumber, until poverty just rushes in like a thief he can't fight off.
And we all know what that feels like. The little sleep today is scrolling on your phone instead of doing the hard work of budgeting or fixing a strained relationship.
That's exactly right. But wisdom also teaches that money isn't evil. It's a tool. And it's often the direct result of that diligence. The question is what you do with it.
Which leads to this idea of generosity as an act of worship.
Right. There's a trio of principles here. First, honor the Lord with your wealth. Acknowledge that he's the source of it all.
Second, the paradox. One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Generosity creates a kind of spiritual and relational wealth that's more valuable than what you gave away.
And third, this profound statement. Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord.
Wow.
It elevates our charity. It's not just helping someone out. It's a direct act of service to God himself.
And on the flip side, integrity in our business is non-negotiable. Dishonest gain is a snare. Those false scales, again, God detests them.
Whether you own the company or you're an hourly employee, integrity has to govern every invoice, every timesheet, every transaction.
And there are two other really relevant cautions here. First, about debt. The borrower is slave to the lender.
A powerful warning against living beyond your means, against sacrificing your future freedom for present consumption.
And second, the priority of a good reputation over great riches. Your name, your character is the more valuable asset. Money can't buy that.
And all of this is wrapped up in the wisdom of contentment. There's that beautiful prayer in Proverbs 30. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but only my daily bread.
Because both extremes have their spiritual dangers. Too much can lead to pride and forgetting God. Too little can lead to desperation and theft.
So we pray for sufficiency, for dependence on Him, for contentment. It's a radical prayer in our culture.
It really is. Okay, finally, let's zoom out from our personal lives to the community. Righteousness in public life.
So righteousness and wickedness are presented as these two distinct paths through life with totally different destinations.
And their outcomes are basically guaranteed by God's moral order.
They are. The path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. It's a path of increasing clarity and confidence.
But the way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They don't even know what makes them stumble.
And God's blessing is tangible. His curse is on the house of the wicked, but He blesses the home of the righteous. This isn't just about heaven later. It's about greater stability and flourishing now.
And a huge part of public righteousness is active justice for the needy.
It's a core mandate. The Lord upholds the cause of the poor. He judges those who crush them. So a wise person has to use their strength and their resources to protect the vulnerable, not to ignore them or prey on them.
This is a call to civic duty.
Absolutely. It calls believers to live differently in the public square, to speak up for those who can't speak for themselves, to refuse bribes, to seek the moral health of our communities.
And that closing principle is a statement about whole nations. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin condemns any people.
Which means our collective moral choices have real political and cultural consequences. Pursuing righteousness is an act of good citizenship.
And the motivation for all this? It's not some strategy to get rich or control things.
No, it's the natural result of fearing the Lord who sees everything, from the dishonest business deal to the quiet act of charity. And He rewards faithfulness in His own perfect time. Our job is just to align our lives with His character.
And that's a powerful summary. It's clear that Proverbs is meant to be a guide for every single aspect of a well-lived life.
So when we pull it all together, what we've seen today is that Proverbs isn't just a collection of random sayings.
No, it's a unified map, a spirit-inspired map for a faithful life.
It tells you where wisdom begins, in that deep, settled awe of the Lord. And it shows you how that wisdom walks in truth, in mercy, in diligence, in humility.
The whole point is to align our deepest desires and our daily habits with the character of God Himself.
And the call for us today is still so plain, so actionable. We're told in the New Testament, if you lack wisdom, ask God for it. He gives it generously.
It's an open invitation to seek His mind for the choices you're facing right now.
And because of that, we have to walk carefully, not just drifting through life, but as wise people, making the most of every opportunity because these days are complicated.
And we have to be wary of the quick routes, the paths that promise gain without godliness. We're called to seek the Lord in the quiet places, to keep His words close to our hearts.
And this whole journey through Proverbs really rests on one powerful encouragement that should carry you through your week. The one who gives the wisdom is also the one who guards the path.
He protects the way of His faithful ones. He keeps the feet of those who trust Him.
So let's end with that promise of divine provision and protection. It's from Proverbs chapter 2, verses 6 through 8. Just listen to this assurance.
For the Lord gives wisdom. From His mouth come knowledge and understanding. He holds success in store for the upright. He is a shield to those whose walk is blameless.
For He guards the course of the just and protects the way of His faithful ones.
No.
The encouragement is just this. The same God who gives you the map is the one walking with you, guarding the path. He promises to be a shield.
May the Lord grant you His wisdom for all the choices you face this week, and may He be a sure shield to you on your path as you seek to walk faithfully before Him.